Hello, hello. I'm really pleased to see Nancy Jo Sales with us. I'm so happy that you've agreed to talk to the audience of Sector 3.0. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
We really wanted to talk to you because we know that for over 10 years, even more, you've been talking to children about how do they feel in the internet. It's changed rapidly also in the past few years, but what we want to talk to you about is how does this culture of scrolling that you've been, researching, examining for the past years is actually affecting young people's self-worth? What's the impact that it has on them?
Well, I started doing this very early on, in the days of social media when people were just really convinced that this was all a good thing, because this was what the tech companies were telling us. They have very powerful marketing. They're very, very good at marketing their products. And everyone was thinking that social media is fun and it's useful and they will learn and they will make friends. That was the idea. And we're talking about 2010, 11, 12, 13 is when I really started talking to them about it. Kids got smartphones in 2007. That's when the phones came out. But by 2012, it was pretty pervasive. Like most kids had smartphones. So, and they were then mainly on Facebook. Instagram was just dawning, And I was so surprised to hear how different children and teenagers' experience of social media was than what the advertising was telling us, what the marketing was telling us. And particularly girls were feeling very depressed about this pressure that they had to engage in social media. And by the way, I don't think any of this has changed. It's all just gotten worse. And there's a lot of studies now indicating that. When I first started doing this, there were no studies. I really picked the bones of the internet clean for any studies when I wrote my book, American Girls, Social Media and the Secret Lives of Teenagers. And there were very few studies by any universities because it takes a while to get that going, and to publish those studies. So I'm really just operating as a reporter on what they're telling me. And I interviewed hundreds of them across the country, mainly girls. It was lowered self-esteem. It was anxiety. It was pressure to conform to a certain image. It was the pressure to constantly be engaged, constantly get likes. It was the real pain of cyberbullying. I didn't talk to a single teenager, no matter what level of popularity they had, who had not been cyberbullied. Everybody was cyberbullied. And why is this? Well, the platforms are designed to be addictive. They're designed to promote aggression. This we all know now. Like when I started doing it, I was just sort of going in like you're going to a new country and you're just trying to learn the habits, and everything. Now it's all been studied. I mean, parents can easily go on the internet. It's useful for some things and look up social media and addiction, social media and body image, social media and depression, social media and anxiety. And you will see hundreds and hundreds of studies of all this. But what they told me, and it really is a great quote, I was talking to some girls, teenage girls about 16 years old in Los Angeles at a mall called The Grove. And one of them said to me, and this is still true to this day, and it just is what the whole thing's about. One of them said to me, social media is destroying our lives. And I said, why don't you just go off it? And she said, because then we would have no life. And that sort of encapsulates the whole problem. Of course, they would have a life. They would have a different life, but they would have a life. But that's how they're made to feel.
Mm-hmm. So when you're thinking about the problems that this whole thing is creating right now, because I think that in the past few years, it's just increased, right? And we know about dopamine addictions. We know about sexting, grooming. We know that the kids are being approached by predators, basically, on the social media platforms. Then we know about filters. We know what does the AI do to the kids and their self-image. There's extreme content and radicalization, I would say. Plus, nobody knows how to unplug, actually. So these are the ones that actually increased in the past few years, right? Because when you were starting, it wasn't that powerful, I think. I mean, we were not that hooked. It was? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think,
Yeah.
yes, social media addiction is almost immediate. That is how platforms are designed. And, you know, we know that they're designed to be addictive. Like, this is not a secret, you know. And I did a documentary film called Swiped about dating apps. And the person who invented the dating app, the swipe, whose name is Jonathan Bedeen, and he invented it for Tinder, he admitted right on camera that we invented this to be addictive. We were trying to find a way to get people hooked to our product. And he was very almost proud of that. But you go to the mind of the brain, actually. You got to think on the level of brain of a 12-year-old, because these phones are being given to 12-year-olds, or even like sometimes now it's like 8 or 10-year-old. And it's not just that they're getting them addicted. They're actually changing their brains. They're changing the responsive nature of their brains to dopamine. And so, you know, it's very dangerous. It's just very dangerous to their health, to their well-being. And everything that you're saying has, in fact, gotten worse. But the only reason I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, is that the design is almost addictive. Once you start swiping, once you start scrolling, and like a gambler, you see those, you know, like likes and like the slot
hearts,
machine.
sort of.
Yeah, hearts and all of the little effects that they give. It immediately is almost immediately addictive. These are very smart people. I mean, smart in a, you know, kind of evil genius kind of way. You know, one thing that people say to me is, well, it can't hurt them. You know, I'm just thinking to myself, would you want Mark Zuckerberg to be your babysitter or your teacher in the school? Would you want Elon Musk, who now owns X, to be? You have to think about who created these things. Who are these people and what do they want? Well, what they want is money, and how they get money is through getting you, its parents too, and your kids addicted to their products so that they can show you ads. I mean, it's really kind of simple. You know, they just want to show you ads. I'm going to tell you something, tell you a chilling story about Facebook and Instagram and who these people are who make these products and what they want and how much they care about your kids. So 2014-15, I started researching my book, American Girls, right? So I'm going out there in the country. And I had started this book because I wrote an article about this, and the response was so overwhelming from parents around the world, places like Sweden and Indonesia, and like saying, it's just like this here. I don't know what to do. My child her personality has changed. She's so depressed now because she's just thinking about putting her picture on Instagram all the time. And, you know, so I started doing the book, right?
Sure.
So I interviewed all these teenage girls, and I found out that social media was making them feel lower self-esteem and making them compare themselves to other pictures of girls online, right? So they're looking at these perfect images, these, you know, edited, treated images, these images that are not real. And then so-and-so gets 300 likes for appearing in a bikini, because it's also very sexualized. But I got 3 likes for showing when I won the math award. That's literally something that happened. A girl told me, I got 3 likes for winning the math award. Mm-hmm. And she got 300 likes for showing herself in her bikini. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start wearing a bikini, right? It's that kind of thing, comparing themselves. So my book comes out, and then, you know, it was talked about, and people started talking about, wow, does social media really make girls' self-esteem go down? Well, then guess what Facebook did? Facebook and Instagram did internal studies in 2017, the year after my book came out, about whether or not is this true? Does Facebook lower the self-esteem of girls, right? Well, we know they found out that it does a lot, and they suppressed those studies They did not reveal those studies. We know about those studies because in 2021, 4 years later, the whistleblower Frances Haugen came out and revealed that Facebook had done these internal studies about body image and self-esteem and depression in girls based on comparison and all of the, body dysmorphia, all these things, right? They did nothing about it to help to change the platform. But what did they do? They said, hey, we can find out when these girls feel bad about themselves because we'll see how they behave online. We'll see when they seem to have a dip in self-esteem, and we'll try and sell them beauty products. And we'll sell them more, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, the beauty industry.
Sure.
We'll make them think they need plastic surgery. We'll sell them weight loss products.
Sure.
We'll use this knowledge of their depression and anxiety to sell them more stuff. I have a daughter who's now 24. At the time when I was doing all of this work, I think about it all the time, how lucky I was that I just stumbled into this story and did not give her a phone and did not allow her to go on social media, because I think it not only affects them in all these terrible ways, but I think it affects them almost immediately. It's like an almost immediate kind of effect. It's not something that happens over weeks or months or years. It's something that happens like pretty much as soon as they go on. And yeah, they've all been cyberbullied. And, I'm a feminist. One of the things that I like to talk about in my work, and I think it's important to talk about, is how much all of this is based on, the degradation of women and the dehumanization of women. And I did talk in my book also about the grooming of young men online and how their young men are being radicalized to be more. It wasn't to be more misogynistic. It wasn't the main part of my book, but it's sort of connected to that. Because these young men it's all connected, because they're growing up online, seeing girls being treated as objects, seeing girls being judged, being rated, being sexualized. It's good to treat them as an object and sexualized for my youths, and that's also what dating apps are. I mean, that's not kids, but although kids do go on them, they do. And have even been like groomed by people on dating apps because it's so easy to go on them, and they're curious and they want to know, what's a dating app? I'm 13 years old, but I'll make a fake profile and go on there. No one's going to check. And then they start talking to 30, 40-year-old men. Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, when I was, I think I saw the research, the latest research that the little boys, young men, they also have right now really low esteem because of what they see on the social media. So something that we've perceived as only girls' problem, that they have this, self-image problems because this is what the world needs them to be. Like, be beautiful and attractive, but it's not only them, right? Yeah. Well, so it's really changing in a way.
No one is saying that it doesn't affect boys. Misogyny affects boys too. Yeah, it affects boys by making them more misogynistic and affecting their ability to communicate their feelings, and by, in all kinds of terrible ways. Misogyny affects boys in terrible ways too. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that they're not harassing their classmates. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that they're not taking out. They deal with these things in different ways. Girls often, turn it on themselves often and have so many terrible thoughts about themselves. Whereas, and I'm not saying this is as a rule, I am not, but the kind of mechanism that misogyny gives to boys is to say, it's girls' fault you feel this way. That's what the incel is all about, right? Sure. The incel is all about saying it's a woman's fault that I am unhappy.
So if you were to give us an advice, how could the organizations educate parents, teachers, and young people on those privacy settings? What would you say?
When I did my book, American Girls, I said to my editor, I think the solution here is they should not have phones. They should not be on social media at all. And after seeing everything that I saw, hearing everything that I heard, but my editor at the time said that she felt that that was too extreme, because the general understanding of everything was not that. She said she thought it sounded too extreme. It might turn people off. So, they're my publisher. I agreed to soften what I really thought and say, well, we need to talk to kids and we need to have these conversations. And that is true. You absolutely have to have conversations with your kids. You can't just give them a phone and expect everything to turn out okay. It won't. Something will happen. They will be cyberbullied. They will start to feel like I'm not as good as her or him. They will be approached by predators. Predators live online to find kids who are vulnerable. They do. So I, as a parent, just see it as this toxic waste dump where I don't want my kid wandering around without any supervision. And I don't want to leave the raising of my child to Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. I'm sorry. I'm not giving her a phone. But it was thought at the time that that was too extreme. But now I think there's enough evidence that we can say, without sounding too extreme, kids should not have phones. The American Pediatric Association says delay, not just phones, but screens of any kind, as long as possible. It's not good for them. It affects their attention span. That's another thing. I mean, in American schools, I went on a book tour after this book came out in 2017. One of the main things that the teachers wanted me to talk about to them and to the kids was addiction and attention span. It affects their attention span. They can't focus. They get so upset when the phone is taken away from them. So I'm going to say 16. And I know that sounds very extreme, but that's what I feel. I think 16 is the earliest a kid should be on a phone or be on social media. Some people say 13. I think that's, too young, personally. But 16, I would say, would be the earliest. And that's 16 with telling them all about these things, explaining to boys what the manosphere is, that it's a place where, men will try and approach you and tell you that women are bad, and all this kind of stuff that in whatever age appropriate way you're going to talk to them about it. And I would just say that these conversations need to be ongoing with them all the time. You talk to your kid about what did you do in school today? I'd say, what happened on social media today? There's a lot of bullying that goes on. There's a lot of drama that goes on. I just think they should be spared that. I think that they should be protected from that. I think that they should be allowed to develop in a healthier way that's not in service of some capitalist need to sell them some, weight loss pills. I don't like children being exploited like that, or adults. It happens to us too. But so I say keep them off of it. And when they do go on it, talk to them on a regular basis about what it is, what's going on. I mean, I'm extreme in my views about this because I've seen such pain and trauma, and you don't want that to happen to any kid. And I've also seen my country become divided against itself because of the manipulation of social media. It's not just that they want us addicted to it. They want us fighting. They design the platforms to be aggressive. And this is when you have children growing up in an environment where the way that they learn to engage with each other is to fight and to be mean. It's just not we're not going to have civil societies if that's how we raise children, to engage with each other in these hateful ways.
Thank you so much for what you've said, and thank you so much for being with us. And that's it, basically. Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for taking these matters up. I think the most urgent subject of our time, and I really appreciate you having me.